I'm Kyle from the Swop, and today we have.
Toby Rush with Redeem.
Yeah. So, how has your experience been so far with NFT NYC 2023?
Yep. Yeah, the experience here has been awesome, right? So, these events are always about meeting people. It's the connections. Conference is great. The side events are even better. And so just having a reason and a place to see people in real life and connect. And there's a lot of interesting things being built. And these seems to be a lot of great collisions at these kind of events.
And so a brief introduction for your previous history.
Sure.
How did you go from Web 2 businesses into Web 3?
Great question. Yeah, so this is actually, I much like pain. This is my third company from scratch. And really the theme across all of my companies have been simplicity, convenience, taking things out of a process and typically using very advanced technology at the time to simplify some steps. Right. So my first company, we realized that forklift drivers actually want to be race car drivers as they drive around warehouses, but they had to keep slowing down to barcode scan things. And so we put cameras on the truck, on the front of the truck and the top of the truck, so they could drive as fast as they want, and we did all the barcode scanning using computer vision. So they loved it. The inventory loved it. Sold that company to a private equity. The next company was found a professor at a university that was using regular cameras to do eye-based biometrics, but at the time they thought immigration, airports, and military was where biometrics should get used. And I looked at this is in 2011, and I'm like, I think biometrics on smartphones would be a great idea. If I could just look at my phone and that could log me in, that feels really powerful. But the response was always, yeah, but if that was such a good idea, why isn't Apple and Google doing it? Right?
Yeah.
In 2011, they weren't. Apple came out with Touch ID in 2013, Apple Pay in 2014. We started this again in 2011. And so by that time, right place, right time. So we had 60 banks up and running, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, RSA. So ended up selling that company to Alibaba. So I spent a couple of years working with them, running biometrics and identity. So amazing experience working over in China, all over Southeast Asia. They asked me to join their corporate venture capital team to do investing on behalf of Alibaba with almost an exclusive focus on blockchain.
That's
right.
Incredible.
And so this was back in 2018, but in China, cryptocurrencies and PFPs aren't really a thing, right? They're not a thing as far as they are in the rest of the world. So it's really hardcore business use cases. How do we do things better, faster, cheaper? What is the experience? How does blockchain change the way we do business? It wasn't about buying and selling kind of assets. And so from the very beginning, that was kind of the focus. I left Alibaba in 2019. Had a small project with a private equity. But about a year and a half ago, came back to Web3 and was just fascinated by how much had been built, how many side projects, how much infrastructure was going up. And probably of all those things that fascinated me then and even today is really NFTs and smart contracts. The ability to own a little piece of data, digital asset in an open ecosystem, so outside the walls of Apple or Google or Microsoft or Visa or Ticketmaster or the government, all those are massive walled gardens. But if I can own a little piece of data outside of them in an open ecosystem, I still need to maintain trust. But if I can, trust being in the blockchain and these NFTs, there's all sorts of innovation and collaborations that could happen. So that concept fascinated me. As I were working on a couple of different ideas, I began to think about the user journey of how would they onboard, how would they use these, what would they need to do, and I'm like, oh, there's no way. There's no chance that we can get mass consumer adoption with the mental models and the behaviors that we were expecting people to adopt. And so as I was looking at these ideas, and I bet phone numbers would be a pretty good hack. I bet someone has thought about how to use phone numbers and phones to kind of bridge and simplify this path to experience. Nobody was doing it. I'm like, okay, that's strange. And the more I thought about phone numbers and phones, the more interesting the idea became. And the more I realized really nobody was doing it. And maybe I should go do that. So really we launched Redeem, and kind of what we're doing is we're building scaffolding or infrastructure around a phone and phone number that accelerates and simplifies the path to experience. Right, so it's not about buying and selling NFTs. It's, hey, I have this digital asset, right, for file format being an NFT that unlocks an experience. It gives me a new engagement, right? And so you think about there's 6.8 billion smartphones in the world.
Yep.
Every single one of them are globally unique. They're all bound to a specific device, the device in your pocket. The owner of that device always knows their phone number. No matter how old, young, tech savvy or not, everybody knows their phone number. Everybody uses a messaging app. Right, and everybody knows how to scan a QR code.
Yep.
So use that. That's my base. I haven't had to build anything or educate anybody, and all that is true.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is I take that as an assumption of being true. So how would you onboard with that experience? So the idea is, well, if you click on a link or scan a QR code, pop up a text message or WhatsApp or whatever the messaging app happens to be. And if I hit send, there's only one device in the world that can send me a text message, send our back end a text message, and that's that specific phone.
Yeah.
So we take that phone number, we spin up a wallet, put the NFT into the wallet, so they're claiming an NFT. We send a link back to that same interaction that they're in, same box, right? I send a link, I get a link back. I click on that link. That link takes me and directly engages into our partner's web app, but they are authenticated with a wallet and an NFT. And the user has no idea that they're NFTs, that they're wallets, and they don't care.
So does it stay held in that specific wallet for redeem then?
So we spin up a default wallet. However, we'll work with anyone's wallet. So we're not a wallet company.
Yep.
So if you've got a Coinbase or a MetaMask or a Rainbow or a Bitsky, or name your wallet. So if we're partnering with them, we'll actually spin up one of their wallets and let them onboard. And if you are a native Web3 user, we also pop up of, hey, do you have a default wallet you would like to use?
Yeah.
Right. And then you can choose your wallet. And then anytime after that, we know this phone number belongs to this wallet, and we'll route those NFTs to whatever wallet you've chosen.
I love that.
Right? So that's the claim side.
Yeah.
Now the token gating side is actually what's fun, because claiming NFT doesn't do me any good. Okay, I have an NFT, but so what? So it's the token gating. So now this NFT, it gives me something new. It allows me to do something different, right? So whether it's in the metaverse or in a real world, like a ticket, or digitally, it's the reason I have this token, therefore I get something else. Right, so it unlocks something for me. So when you think about, let's use a physical example. So if I go up and scan a QR code at a physical event, it's going to launch the browser.
Yep.
Well, when we do the first onboarding flow, we drop an authentication token down onto your device. And so when that browser relaunches, this browser belongs to this phone and is attached to these wallets. So we can look in any of those wallets. Does this phone possess, or is attached to a wallet that possesses NFT to give them access to an event? The user doesn't have to open the app, doesn't have to figure out what the wallet is, doesn't have to open the NFT. All they have to do is scan the QR code and possess their phone.
That's a simplified step to because I feel like in most cases what we've seen with crypto, it's like 15 to 20 steps to get.
So here's what's crazy. What I love this use case. So imagine I'm a game. In fact, even metaverse. So thanks. So I have I send out a link. I'll drop a link in Discord, Telegram, social, Instagram, TikTok. Doesn't matter. Drop a link. That link has a payload of NFT. So if I click on this link, it's a new avatar. It's an in-game asset. It's kind of whatever it is. It's going to put that NFT into the wallet, right? Then it's going to redirect that user into the game, or into the metaverse even. You've probably seen log in with a link. We can log in with the link and land them in the app ready to engage.
Yeah.
Right, so from a single click, we've collapsed three things.
Yep.
To a user, all they're doing is clicking on a link. I want this NFT, or not call it NFT. I want this in-game loot box or avatar or skin, and I end up in the game ready to use that asset.
Yeah, and it would be super easy for someone to, let's say they got a collectible or whatever, and then send it to someone that they know as a gift.
You can, so you can text an NFT.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're on a phone, and I want to say, I want to send you, and I have your phone number. In fact, even as we were connecting, right? I texted you, hey, I'm here.
Yep.
But that's what we do. That is the normal behavior. So if I wanted to send to someone an NFT, so it uses our platform. It generates a one-time use URL.
Yep.
Right? It sends you that NFT. You click on that link, and it said, you know what your default wallet is, and it routes to your wallet.
That's incredible. To me, there's so many, again, touching back on how people have 10 steps to get to these things, just having it so simple, like you said, is going to onboard masses in the long run. And with 6.8 billion smartphones.
Everybody's got one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do laugh a little bit. We're trying to teach people, hey, you should go get a new ENS name and a new unstoppable domain and a handshake. Why are we recreating what we already have? We already have this phone number that everybody understands and knows. It's never going away.
Yeah.
So kind of one of the things we think about at Redeem is we don't know which use cases are going to win in the near term or the long term, but we're sure the phone is going to be a part somewhere.
Yeah.
So if we build scaffolding around the phone and phone number, then whatever those use cases are, people who are building experiences today have this enduring component they can build around.
Definitely. And so in recent years, and I would say the one thing that we've seen a huge uptick since COVID is QRs with menus.
Yep.
So people are already accustomed to using
they know exactly
all these
what it
things.
is. Yep.
So I see that eliminates the barrier of, okay, now someone even on this table there's a QR code. It's just that popular. It's almost like we've been conditioned for the simplicity of where we're headed. So where do you see the foreseeable six to 18 months in where you're at with Redeem?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what we're trying to partner with platforms and brands and companies that are trying to create experiences, right? So we've got three focuses: brands, live events, and gaming, right? When you think about NFT-powered loyalty, NFT-powered live events, NFT-powered games. Like that's where we think, because again, you're trying to get offline people online and on-chain. Right, and that's kind of exactly what our platform is doing. Is how do I get this person who is offline either into an online game where it's token gated or completely on-chain or in a metaverse or any of those things. So it would be partnering with brands, live events, and gaming companies to do NFT powered experiences.
Yeah, and so do you see any challenges with the networks that you kind of work with right now? Like, because like obviously there's different standards and stuff for certain networks.
No. What's a great thing about everybody supports. Well, everyone either uses WhatsApp or SMS.
Yep.
Right, almost universally. So we don't have this supported yet, but we will be able to also support Signal and Telegram.
Okay.
To be able to say any phone number based messaging platform works for us.
Could would it be like an API that they use to?
So if they wanted to integrate it directly, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But if you think about if you can, if I'm on a website today and I want to say, send to you using WhatsApp, you can format that URI to basically say, hey, use Telegram, use Signal, use WhatsApp, use SMS. And so the user kind of chooses what their default app is, and then we kind of let them go from there.
Okay. And then outside of like your WhatsApp or your Telegram, do you foresee this kind of getting picked up by like your Facebook or Twitter? Like, could it be easily used? Like,
right. I think you would use those to distribute the links. I don't know that it gets integrated. It would definitely get integrated directly. Facebook doesn't integrate anything directly. Nor Twitter. But I think using that as the distribution channel, where again, that's where people already are. So yes, you would hit them if I'm an influencer, if I'm a brand, and I'm communicating with my community. Like that's a really easy activation point of drop them a link. They click on that link, and it's actually giving them an NFT, and then directs them to wherever they want them to engage.
And another thing, do you see the need for, like how some people do like a collection of 10,000 collectibles, right?
Right.
Would it be possible to have multiple people, I guess, mint from the 10,000, or with the individual link, like it's like a first come first serve, or is it only going to be allowed to one person?
So what's cool thing about phone numbers is we can detect if it's a carrier issued number versus a Google Voice number.
Okay.
Right, and so it's up to the brand.
Yep.
If the brand says, hey, one NFT per person.
Yeah.
They can actually limit it to say, hey, you have to be a real person.
Yep.
And you have to only get one.
Definitely.
So that's kind of the configuration options they've got.
That's super needed, because one thing that I've seen with like ecosystems doing airdrops and such, it's botted.
Yep.
Right. And then you have
so we eliminate bots cold. And it's cool. And it's already there. Like I don't have to do anything extra.
Yep.
It's a flag I can set when you're on board. We can say, okay, is this a virtual number versus a carrier issued, and that's global.
That's super needed.
Yep.
Like, again, the bots, it seems like someone that's trying to get their platform going, they might just preload their thing to make it look like they have users, and then you don't know like the real data metrics of who's actually using the platforms and such. What do you like? I guess because we already asked the 6 months to 18 months.
Right.
Where do you kind of see like the next 5 years?
Going. I mean, that's the $1 billion question. It's like where does Web3 and NFT goes? So again, I think we stopped calling them NFTs.
Yep.
And it's simply digital assets, right?
Yeah.
I don't go say, hey, let's go listen to an MP3. Like let's go listen to a song. I don't go say let's go watch an MP4. Let's go watch a video. So I think you're going to have things like digital tickets. You're going to have digital certificates, digital credentials, digital goods, digital assets. There's simply going to be digital things that I need to own, and I need to own them outside of a walled garden, right? So I need to actually own them personally. So I think as you start thinking about its insurance policies, its certificates for education, for qualifications. I mean, it's everything that you might. It's a deed to your house, right? Those are still paper.
Yep.
A deed to your title to your car. Like, well, if that's purely digital, the challenge is like who actually owns a digital version of the title to your car, because it's infinitely copyable and pasteable. That's exactly what an NFT is. It's a one-to-one. It's a physical thing, and while it owns that, we need to make it easier for people to link their phone numbers, what our thinking is. And so I think we'll see just a massive number of NFT-powered use cases, but we won't call them NFTs.
Yeah, I think that's needed because it's a buzzword, and it has the downside of being a buzzword to a lot of people. One of the things that interested me was with these collectibles, right? If you're using in a gaming experience, I would say Fortnite's probably the biggest game right now, arguably. And what happens if you spent, $800 on all these assets, and then Fortnite's like, you know what, our game's done tomorrow. This is your last day. You don't have those assets anymore, and it needs to be interoperable to be able to play it on like a game like Grand Theft Auto and all that. And we're moving ahead to where these collectibles need to be able to be used elsewhere. Do you have, I guess, because you can integrate with almost any network and social, do you kind of see, maybe I'm not wording this right, what's like the urgency of making these interoperable in the foreseeable future so that people feel safe in their acquisition of whatever project?
Sure. So being interoperable, I think, is probably a bigger challenge. Like, so how does a sword in Minecraft show up in Fortnite? Like that. Like those don't necessarily fit. So I don't know the answer there. I do think there's a really powerful concept when you can take a digital asset in a game out of the game to incentivize, right? So you take an action in real life, or you do something on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and they're going to give you a new sword. That ends up, but again, how do they do that? Well, if that sword were an NFT, what are that in-game asset, or skin, or car, or the avatar, if they put that into a wallet, and that wallet is connected to the game, they can kind of read any of those assets, and it could show up in that. So if I'm I'm in Kansas City, so I'm a Chiefs fan, right? And if I'm playing, Madden, NFL Madden, then Chiefs can show. I get some special Chiefs thing, right? I get Patrick Mahomes, I get something else, right? So I think that kind of in-game to IRL is fascinating, where these now in-game assets can live as NFTs outside the game.
Yeah.
Or I can take one of the fun use cases I like to talk about is say you do some accomplishment in game, and Wendy's is sponsoring it, and the loot box gives you loot, but it also gives you free Frosty, right? So in game, I have a free Frosty that goes into my wallet. Now I physically can go to a Wendy's restaurant, give them my phone number, and if they basically link back, and so because I did something in Fortnite, I can get a free Frosty at Wendy's.
Yep.
Or conversely, because I like the Chiefs game and I hold a Chiefs ticket in a wallet, I can now in-game have something show up that I did something in person. I went to a Chiefs game, and so now I have some in-game Chiefs. I think that's really what is, to me, probably a little bit nearer term of allowing in-game assets to live in-game and out of game.
Definitely. I'm a Bucks fan, Milwaukee Bucks, and if the Bucks score 100 points in a certain game, everyone gets a free bowl of Wendy's chili.
Right. Yeah. But how do you know who has a ticket?
Exactly.
Right. And so if your phone number, or if maybe there's a party in game somewhere, right? So Fortnite wants to throw a party for the Bucks, or Roblox, or name whatever it might be, or you're driving any of your Grand Theft Autos, like you can start your advertising on your car.
Yep.
Can actually be something that you're a fan of.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where I think it's fascinating, is where in-game assets can flow and be, just permeable across all these different channels that consumers already operate. I think that stuff's fascinating.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And then for anyone getting started in the industry, do you have any tips of how someone could navigate their way to maybe bypass some of the early on hurdles? Because you've started with, this is your third company.
Yep.
And you said it's very tough, that you like pain.
Yes.
So for someone navigating into their first startup, or maybe their second, what tips could you give them that you've learned so far in your Web3 experience, and maybe some of those early on startups?
I'd say avoid hype cycles and focus on solving a real problem. Right, so you've got to ask yourself, is the thing that I'm doing solving a real problem, and is it going to be a problem tomorrow and in 5 years and in 10 years? Like, that's what you got to focus on. I think we've done ourselves a bit of a disservice by chasing what a lot of times were Ponzi schemes and people pumping and dumping a token or even a collection, but there's no utility, there's no value beyond that.
Exactly.
So I'd say if you're going to go build, especially today in Web3, find utility, find an experience and unlock an engagement that is different, that you can only do with NFTs. That's the other big thing. A lot of people were doing things in Web3 that you could totally do in Web2, and just because in Web3 it wasn't any better, like it was just in Web3.
Yep.
Right. So I think you've got to look for the unlocks, and those unlocks happen when multiple entities can engage with a consumer because they hold something without having to give the tickets example. I don't always have to go back and ask Ticketmaster if this person has this ticket. I have it in my wallet. Therefore, of course, I can go into a game and they don't have that, or I can go into a restaurant where a brand can now engage with me, an artist can now engage with me because it's helped in the open. So it's that collaborative commerce, or collaborative engagement that I think is a huge unlock.
Yeah, I appreciate that greatly. One of the things that you mentioned, the tickets quite a bit. I think one of the biggest markets for people entering events is the fact that someone could find out last minute that they have a front row seat if they purchase with an NFT or whatever, collectible. But like, they could potentially buy a general admission ticket and then figure out an hour before that they've been upgraded, like prior to, or maybe they get a collectible that might have been used on stage at that event from an artist.
Right. I'll give props to Ticketmaster. I really like their last activation that they did with their concert, where if you're an NFT holder of the band, you're a fan, all the fans got to get tickets first. So just that simplicity of, hey, which again the artists love, because yes, I want my fans to be there.
Yep.
The fans loved it. And it basically is simple, but how do you know who's a fan? NFTs are the perfect answer to that, right? And so because I'm a fan with this artist completely outside of Ticketmaster is able to say, oh, anybody with this band's NFT gets front of line.
Yeah.
Like super simple, super high value. Nobody was giving money away. Nobody was trying to sell something extra. It's like, hey, you just get to be front of the line to buy tickets.
And that's obviously got to help prevent a little bit from like the scalpers and all that come in. So doesn't increase the value of the secondary market for the ticket and stuff, or at least as much. It shelters it a bit. So that's definitely needed, because you see like someone like I think it was Taylor Swift or Adele, where they had like ridiculous prices for their events, and like people, like a everyday person who you should want, at your show that spends all this money to attend, they don't have thousands of dollars to just shell out for a ticket for a one-time experience. And like with sports, we have athletes that have to sit out and rest. All that, like it just adds up and takes away from like the general public that make those commitments to go. But yeah, I certainly appreciate your time, Toby.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun. I love these conversations.
Yeah, and do you have any socials or anything that you'd like to connect for, where people could connect easily?
Absolutely.
With
Twitter's at Tobias Rush. Actually, Tobias Rush is about everywhere. It's on his Telegram, it's LinkedIn, and it's in Twitter, and then redeem_XYZ on Twitter.
Perfect. And any upcoming events that anyone could plan to potentially run into you at?
Yeah, we'll be down at Consensus